Um, dropped off a little. Welcome to Live 101, 121, CycleKart Build. I wanted to go over what happened at Wilcox. Not per se the race, but what happened to the cycle carts that me and my son were driving. So I have here some of the parts from the Buick Bug, which is the one that made one lap around the track, and that was it. It was just that one track, one lap, and it came back around, and yeah, had problems with it the whole time. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about these parts and what I've derived from them from one drive after going 14 hours down there. And then we're going to go talk about the various cars and things that we're going to do on it. So let's go ahead and jump right over to the parts and talk about them and what we got. So the first one I'm going to talk about is this rack and pinion. So let me go ahead and get a little closer here. So what I have here is the rack and pinion, and this is a Amazon special, really inexpensive. I think it was 50 bucks, and it comes with this tie rod, the shaft, and universal joint. Now this is the second one I've had. The first one was on the first Buick Bug, and then I bought one for the Buick Bug and one for a second cart that I was already planning to build, which is the MG. So the Buick Bug had this on it, and we were at Titan, and my wife drove the car around the city just to enjoy it, and we had a problem. I gotta step away and grab a screwdriver. So give me a second. Let me grab that. So when she was driving it, the pinion nut, this right here inside there, that's the pinion nut that holds the pinion gear, and then the part down here, that's a rack. Okay, so on the pinion, the nut came off. Okay, and so because the nut went off, the pinion gear came out, and she had no longer had steering from the rack. Now, and it's also mounted with these two bolts, or you can try to clap around here onto the frame of the CycleKart. But so yeah, that the pinion nut. So at Wilcox, after the first lap, because that's all I got done on it, I brought it back to the school here and started tearing it apart, and I noticed all of that movement, right? And all that movement is sitting here flexing around the rack, and that flop is causing issues, and found out the nut was loose again. So pay for what you get. The $50 rack from Amazon, you'll have to do some stuff. So if you want, get a castle nut, drill this out, put a counter pin in it. I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to go with the standard go-kart rod with a rod either direction. I'm not going to go with this rack and pinion. So uh, end up having to shorten the tie rods, the outer tie rods right here, the arms, so that way they fit in the narrower car. So that's the rack and pinion. That's it. Don't risk it. Okay. The other big one that I had a problem with was this. It's a Makuni carburetor. Okay. If I remember right, it's 28. I got a big one for a particular reason. So if you remember in other videos, we had the intake that's off of this side, and it comes up. Think about an engine sitting around here. And it would go across the top of the block, and the carburetor would sit right here. Well, I went with the bigger one to let more air to be able to suck through. Um, but the problem was not so much the carburetor per se, but this. Let's see if I can get it back off of the bracket I have made for this. There we go. Now I'll go ahead. This is a plumbing pipe. There's nothing special about it. Let me open this all up. All right, let's see if we can. So what would happen is this would sit on the engine, right? There's the D, and this would curl up. But what was happening is if I wasn't full throttling it, there was not enough need for the fuel it was delivering. So what would happen is fuel would puddle up here, down here, because this is perfectly smooth through both these pipes. And so it wouldn't keep turbulence. It wouldn't keep the air-fuel mixture disturbed and rattled. No, it would separate, and the fuel would build at the bottom, and then I would get a very rich condition. I would flood the motor, and I couldn't get the stupid thing to start. So even the welding here fell apart, the JB. So the long intake did not work. Okay. All right, so now to the next pieces. So like I said, the carburetor didn't have any issues with it. So we'll go from there. The next one would probably be these. Now, these I bought, put on my trailer. And I just, because I didn't want to spend any money on some extra lights and I already had wiring going, I went ahead and wired these in. Now, these are also from Amazon. I'll throw the link in with my poor review of it. The problem is these nuts, or these bolts, have already twisted in the plastic, so I can't actually remove anything. So, but they were super bright, really liked them, but yeah, they're kind of chintzy. But once I get them unmounted from this, I'll get them mounted on the trailer. They'll work just fine for that. But it's definitely not an on-off part. So. All right, where are we at? Jaggernaut. This is the driving clutch. I can't tell you anything about it, other than what it's supposed to do. But with only one lap, I didn't get a chance to really try it. Too many different add-ons to really try it, but definitely going with this. So, all right. And the last thing, this. Let's see here. We can stretch this out. Switch over here real quick. All right, so let's see here. We have here is my dash. These are all the button switches on the dash, right there. And then we have the front wiring loom. This went to the two pod. No, this one was the underglow. That was a pod. Then this was the other pod. And then this was the brake light, which has a neat little switch. That one. Just a little quick momentary switch. So that worked out really well. The wiring I didn't have a problem with. I have a flasher right here for turning indicators. That's what. That's this one. So it was a momentary either direction. So I had turning indicators, a flasher, and then I had all these. Broke. Headlights, underglow, whipstick, and then it was just an extra one. I think it worked. Oh, that was the main. I would turn everything off. So that would also shut the engine down. So I had multiple kill switches. I had this one. I had the key because it was a key start. And then I also had a kill switch by the starter. This one did not have one in the engine bay though. The MG does. I do like that because if I'm having issues and I'm working on the engine, I can shut it off without having to reach over to the other one. All right. So that's all these pieces. So yeah. And double check, make sure nobody's got questions. We're good. All right. So what I'm gonna do is let's go ahead and go to the other camera, and we're gonna go and grab and head over to the MG. No, actually, let's talk about the MG first. Let's do that. All right. So what I have, because the MG is at my house and I'm here at work, because that's where the CycleKart is. My students are helping me fix things up. But what I have here is a photo, and it was interesting. On the forums, people were barking, "Oh my gosh, how are you having such horrible fuel economy? That's horrendous. You must be wrong. Blah, 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 blah." To tell you, That's what it was. I can't lie to you. Those were the numbers. The biggest thing, the reason why we probably had such bad numbers was it was very dusty. You watch Steve's races from the year before or any of the other footage that has come out, you'll see it is nothing but dust. The whole track is just loose. And I'm not talking about like dust. This is fine, like, talcum powder dust. So it would suck into the air filter, probably get 3 laps on a filter, it seemed like. People were using socks on them. Steve had an ingenious little flap to help draw the dust out of the air filter to get clean air. That's probably the biggest challenge. And then the very loose dust that you're driving in. So if you the first turn after the Le Mans start is almost a 180 back. And so you're doing a 180, kind of like the hairpin at Huntsville, but we're going this way, not directly against oncoming traffic. You're turning hard on very loose dirt, and so and it's a very tight turn because we're coming in on incoming traffic, and so yeah, there was all these different spots where you were flooring it, but you weren't going anywhere because the wheel was just, or the gearing, the ratio on your chain wasn't quite there yet. And so, yeah, you spent a lot of time just, but yeah, that was it. Okay. So, yeah, fuel economy went way up at night. It got cooler. So the engines weren't getting hot. The dust was starting to settle. Also in the evening, not as many cars were on the track. There were several breakdowns. I was broken down. I was working on the MG all night, fixing, I don't have the part here, the sprocket hub warped out, so I had to replace that, and that requires you to take the whole rear end out to replace the hub center. So yeah. Now MG. So this was the Buick problem, and that was 1 lap, and I had this is its problem. The MG had the center hub rip out, and that was an aluminum adapter for a split sprocket gears, such as these. These are from Go Power Sports. These are split sprockets, and it was the hub that went with this. So this is a 35 chain. This is a 75 tooth. This one is a 80 tooth. Yeah, I got a couple of these. I don't even remember what I have on the MG right now. The Buick's running 41 chain right now. It'll probably be adapted over, maybe. Actually, it will, because we're going to take the engine on axle out of the car too. So, what about the MG? What was its problem? What failed it? Well, actually, what was its biggest problem was it was overheating. So in this is the engine bay of the car. Oh, there we go. Okay. And what was the issue was the gas would boil. Now the gas is not bolted to the motor. It's actually up separated. Did not drive with any top on it and drove with no bottom on it. But there's 2 biggest problems. You can see it right here at the top. The muffler is sitting in the engine bay, and there is nowhere for the air to get out. It would just go towards the tail and just circle back as the air would force it around and around inside here. Secondly, was there is no real way for fresh air to come in over here to the cooler. So it was interesting because we could do about 10 laps and then it would boil, and we would literally just pop the cap. We would wait 4 or 5 minutes and it would cool down enough. We'd top it off and off he went. And he would do another 10 laps, and it was just great. So what we're going to do on the MG to help cure it, and this came from Steve, and I thank him. So right here on the end of the muffler, let me grab this one. So on the end of the muffler is this. So here's the muffler. It was sitting in the car, and the exhaust gas is coming out of this port right here, and they just go to the end of the cone and just turbulence right there. and a little bit would come up, but there was no spot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tack in a pipe right here, and it will come out of the tail end and then turn and vent just to the side of the cart. We'll put a hole there. So it's something I've learned is that the kind of like on the Buick Bug, I've worked really hard to fiberglass the end. Eric, he did or not Eric, sorry, Rick over in Florida, he did a beautiful job on his and being able to get his to work right. I'm not that good, I guess. So I would love it to not have the intake sticking out and the exhaust sticking out, but it's a CycleKart. It's not a scaled model. As we can tell, that thing's definitely not a scaled model of the original car. It's modeled after the MG. So I'll put a hole on the side and I'll put some heat flashing on there. And that will vent out. And then on the other side where the intake is, let me go back to that. So over here on the intake, so right here, whoops, I've got pin, good. So off the exhaust, it's just gonna come off that way. Okay. And then for the intake, what we're gonna do is so here's the engine up here at the top, just going along. I'm gonna put a little scoop in here. Let's see how well I can draw that. Just like that. Because I can pull start and everything up here, but it needs air around the cooling fins. So I'm just gonna put a scoop there. Now I haven't decided that's direct in, or if I'll put it the other way, because then it just kicks more dust in. But other than Wilcox, Wilcox and the Malad Madness are the only dirt tracks I'm currently running on. Waiting for Aaron in his Las Vegas setup. Slim Dog, I'm hoping to get there in 2021. Hoping to do a couple big races. So, all right. So that's the MG, that's the Buick Bug. Let's go over to the Buick Bug and look at its frame and see what's going on there. Let me switch over to the other camera, sorry. And yes, let me do one more button here. Okay, so let's go ahead and head over there. All right, what's really fun after we got back to the Wilcox, and Sunday, and they what I've done on here is um, oh, that's why I wanted to show the box. So I got rid of the rack. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take brakes. I'll keep the hydraulics. I'm going to take all that off. Because every time I push hard on the brake, ending the now we can do this part. Let's go into the cell. This is the belly pan. I think this was after I didn't do the Le Mans start. So I think it was about the fourth lap or the fifth lap. I jumped in mine and went, and there was already a couple of cycle carts down, so I stopped. Then I went again, came out of the vineyard and I hit a rock or something. Literally, it busted the fiberglass. Now this is this section of players, actually the bus built. So, yeah, definitely not good fiberglass. So, Steve finally picked frames that he picked over, and they have to one of them. That's going to be the new belly pan. And I got some more metal. But normally for a side, I'll use it just after it's coming out. So the seat on the side, well, will get removed. The really interesting here, I was not on this clear plus. I can plug in release and I see purpose here loop. Now also better exhaust will are one huge. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to want to have leading the hoop. Whole body. Yeah. Yeah. I'll fix all that. I'm going to keep searching. and I hope I catch you guys at the next race.